Really just sailor buying, I don't know how we see a like the traditional bear market. Like, yes, do we see, maybe 10-20% corrections? That's sort of what, I'm projecting. I can be completely wrong, and maybe we do see something like a 50% or a 60% or something like that. But like, I really don't think you're going to see 70, 80, 90% correction on Bitcoin. My son, we had him in the hospital. So he's 2, or he wasn't even 2 at this point, actually. We had him in the hospital on Halloween night. Couldn't breathe. He did not get seen by a doctor or anything to do. Like, nobody even listened to how bad he was until I think it was 2 in the morning, and I got there at 5:30 in the evening. I think the days of seeing an 80% correction are done. And I say that, and I'll listen to this in like 2 years from now, and I'll be completely wrong on that. For December, I'd be happy with something between 180 and 200.
Okay.
Like, that to me feels like kind of like a happy medium, being conservative on my price prediction. I think that it should be worth $1 million or more, because I would pay that myself.
We've got Joel Hodlman on. Nice to meet you. You were like the first person that I actually like kind of became friends with on X.
Yeah, I think it was around Christmas time.
Yeah, because I had a Twitter account back from like 2017 or something, and I just never used it. Never really like talked to anyone on it. And then
Right.
2020 happened, and I started getting like involved in politics on it, and that was driving me crazy. So I like stopped using it and was like, I'm just gonna make like a completely anonymous account for Bitcoin. That way, it's like
Right.
all Bitcoin stuff. And so I started that like what 6, 8 months ago. Yeah, probably like 8 months ago or something.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, when I first got to know you, it was like you were like one of my first followers, I think.
Well,
How long have you been
I've
on X?
I think my account I opened up back in like 2013 or something. Like, I was still in high school when I started on X, but like, it was never something that I used in terms of a platform of putting content out. It was always like, let's follow news or sports or something like that, right? Like, it was like, if you asked me 5, 6 years ago, how do I use X? It's just me curating news that I want to see, rather than what like a CNN, a Fox News wants to tell me that I need to see, right? So, yeah, it's just kind of how I used X. And then I would say, kind of similar to you, it's been probably about a year and a half now. I kind of made a switch of, like, I'm in this Bitcoin space. I very much believe in Bitcoin and want to help further the adoption of Bitcoin and all that. And not to say that I think that I'm the smartest, but I think I can add value, or at least add encouragement to people. Like, I think one of the things for us is like the numbers. When you're the only person out there saying something or doing something, it can be lonely. But if there's a whole bunch of people kind of saying the same thing and doing the same thing, you can find encouragement in that. And that's kind of what I found on X, is that it like Bitcoin is kind of a lonely thing, a lonely idea, right? There, like, I don't have a whole lot of people in my life that are Bitcoiners, right? But I can get on X and I can talk with a whole bunch of Bitcoiners from all around the world. And that's encouraging to me, to keep going, to keep thinking about it, to keep delving into the topic of Bitcoin and everything that it touches. So, yeah, it was about a year and a half ago, I think, for me, that I decided, I'm not just going to be a consumer on this platform. I'm going to kind of add my encouragement, add my thoughts. And part of that too was, I'm an internal processor. I need to think about stuff, but then I get to the point where I have to speak it out loud. And like, not having a whole lot of people in my life that I can just turn and, catch a beer with somebody and talk about the actual topic, like, there was nowhere for me to have that. So X allowed me to be able to speak and speak my thoughts. And I think I will probably look back in a couple of years on some of the things that I said, and it's like, I missed the mark on that, and I'm a little crazy for what I was thinking back then. But for me, it's also partly like a journal that way, of like, where have I come from, where am I going, and also like, where has the space come and gone that way too. So
I know it's weird because you were saying that you've even been to like Bitcoin meetups recently. And I have yet to go to any Bitcoin meetups. I've like never met anyone in real life that's like, yeah, I love Bitcoin. Every time I mention Bitcoin, they're like, yeah, I hold XRP. And I'm like, cool. Like, okay, been there, done that. Like, but it's like 2017 all over again. And I'm like, people are still caught on that in real life. Like, they're just $1,000. And it's like, people for some reason, they still think like XRP is going to go to 10 grand and it's going to make them rich, that they can put in
Right.
$100 and they're just going to get rich off of it. And I'm like, I'm so sick of explaining that to people, but at the same time, I needed it explained to me. So like, yeah, I still put out content about it because I'm like, eventually, so it clicks for some people kind of right away, but for others, it just takes time. And so I get frustrated with that. But that's why, yeah, I joined X and decided to start posting like you and just like creating content around Bitcoin, trying to spread some sort of word about it from my own perspective, and then joining communities on X, which was awesome because then it's like there's like an actual group of people that you can all like talk about the same thing, bounce ideas off of, instead of just me in my little echo chamber of like politics and Bitcoin and bull crap. And then like I go out into the real world and no one even cares. And I'm like,
Right.
how do you not get it? How do you not see it? I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, like so my wife and I, we just went to Washington D.C. So we left on Thursday, drove down. So I'm in southern Ontario, just outside of Toronto.
Yeah. Oh,
So we
happy anniversary, by the way.
Yes, thank you. It's our 8-year anniversary today, and it was your anniversary over the weekend, I believe.
Yeah, 9. Yeah.
Yes, so happy 9 years to you and your wife as well. So yeah, we were driving down and just kind of the topics that I was thinking about and all that. I don't know why it crossed my mind, but it crossed my mind as we were driving that like I think about Bitcoin like almost every minute,
Like an
right? Like
like an
like
unhealthy amount.
I wouldn't say it's unhealthy. It's like it's just the way I view things in life is like we go to a store, right? Like I'm thinking of Bitcoin obviously because you're thinking of cents and dollars. But like I think as we're driving like on the road and stuff, like you see potholes or you see things and it's like, oh, like I think Bitcoin fixes that. Like how does a Bitcoin world make this better, right? And I think maybe the reason I was thinking is Canada and the United States are similar in ways, but you can notice a difference, but like kind of put your finger on the difference might be a little harder to do. But when you travel, like roads are different. Like here in Ontario, we basically just have like one major highway that takes you kind of like east west. It's more like south west to like northeast type thing. But and then everything kind of runs off of that. Where I find in the States, like you have 20 different freeways coming out of one city, right? Like we'll just have one. And then so like if you want to get here, this is going to show, and you're here, you got to travel here and go all the way up where you guys will have a highway that goes here, but then you'll have a highway that goes here and here and here and there, right? Like in a way, like I think Bitcoin fixes that for like Canadians in a way of like because we have a government and everything is so controlled that way that like we don't want to just spend money on things, right? Where like Bitcoin's going to make you think like, do we need this road? Because this is going to save time and effort to get from point A to point B rather than going to point C to get to point B, where it's kind of like how we have to do it here. So yeah, I don't know. I think I just see Bitcoin in many different ways of, we might be driving down the road and you see like a nice Ferrari and it's like, well, you're short Bitcoin. Why are you driving a Ferrari type thing? Right. So but yeah, no, it's definitely like it's not something that people think about. And in my mind, it's just like, how do you not think of it? Because it touches everything in our lives. And if we lived in a Bitcoin world, our world would be a better world.
I agree. And it's weird because it's like once you get orange pilled, you can't stop thinking about it, and all you want to do is talk about it because all of a sudden it's almost like that movie, like Limitless. You like take the pill and you like see the world like so much clearer, and like everything is bullshit, and you're just like, why am I paying taxes? You question everything. You're like,
Right?
Like, where is my money going? How is my money being spent? Like, what is money? How is money created? You just go down this rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden you question everything in existence. Just like you said, even as simple as a pothole in a road. You're like, yeah, I pay 30% in taxes every year, probably more, and everything sucks. But the government
Yeah.
tells you, oh no, we need the rich to pay more taxes. We need you to pay more taxes because we don't have money to fix this. And I'm like, how how? Like, what is going on?
Because half of, like, for me, I probably pay more, like 50% in taxes when all is said and done. It's like, how is my healthcare not like it's free, let's call it, but it sucks. Like, if I want to, I have someone right now who she's hurt her back. She's a colleague at work. She's hurt her back. She needs an MRI. She's been given an MRI for, I think it's February, and she needs it now. That's our free healthcare. Um, so I've been off work for a little while. I got a concussion in December. My injury date is the 2nd of December. So I've been off work. It was a work related injury. And the last
Sorry, what do you
maybe
do?
6 weeks,
What do you do? If you
um,
don't mind saying,
I
you
work,
don't have to.
yeah, I'm a custodian. I do nothing big or grand. I was outside clearing snow and slipped and fell and hit my head. There's a history of concussions through sports, so that's kind of why like the concussion is probably worse than, let's say, it would have been for somebody who hasn't had concussions before. But so my one of my therapists that I'm seeing, he said that he's seeing a lady who has some neurological problems and needs an MRI. And like, it's possibly something that like could be severely like life altering. And she's been also been given like a springtime MRI. And he's like, she could literally be dead from what it could possibly be and what they're fearing it is. That's our free healthcare system.
That's wild. Because it's like,
Yeah.
what pisses me off is everyone in government, if that happened to them, at least I don't know Canadian government very well. If it happened to them, they would see a doctor immediately. They would get an
Oh, I'm sure.
MRI that day. And yet they can determine for us, or for you guys at least up in Canada, they can say, no, you have to go to this hospital, get on a waiting list, and hopefully you get seen. Hopefully you don't die, and you pay tax.
Well, my son, we had him in the hospital. So he's 2, or he wasn't even 2 at this point, actually. We had him in the hospital on Halloween night. Couldn't breathe. He did not get seen by a doctor or anything to do. Like, nobody even listened to how bad he was until I think it was 2 in the morning. And I got there at 5:30 in the evening.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of very liberal socialist friends that I didn't know until like 2020 happened, because 2020 happened and I was already like kind of orange pilled, not like 100% orange pilled, but I was already starting to question things. And so 2020 happened and I was like, wait, maybe we should take a step back from this vax thing and maybe we should question that. Like, what's going on? And then the masks, and then the social distancing, and then the you can't have people at your house for Thanksgiving. And I was like, this is insane. I was like, this is overreach. Like, this is, and people, all my friends were like on board with it. And I was like, this is
And you were in Florida or Colorado at this point in time?
I was in Colorado still.
Okay.
Colorado used to be a red state because I grew up there. I moved there when I was like 2 years old. So pretty much my entire life. And it used to be a red state with hunting, fishing, outdoors. You had your hippie people in Boulder,
Mhm.
which is fine. But then California started moving in because we legalized marijuana. And we once that happened, we got a lot of people that you probably don't want moving in because they're moving there just to smoke weed. And it's like, okay, they sell it to you. It's like, oh, it's going to be great for taxes, right? Look how much they made, like, well, 100 million in extra taxes. And it's like, congratulations. But now, like, I don't know, my schools suck. Like it smells like marijuana when you go downtown. Like I wouldn't even go downtown Denver right now. It sucks. But yeah, so anyway, 2020 happened and I started questioning everything. And then you start questioning like the health system and like you were saying, your kid doesn't even get seen for hours and they're not breathing. And it's like, I mean, the difference, I guess, between the United States and Canada is sure we pay out the ass for our health insurance, but luckily, if you have a good corporate job, they cover most of it. But for most Americans, I mean, you're paying a hefty amount per month just to have that health insurance. And if you do see a doctor for anything serious, you're still going to get a big bill. And it's like the number one cause for bankruptcy in America is is health insurance because or not health insurance but health emergencies related to hospitals. You know, you something serious happens, you need surgery, uh it bankrupts you. I mean,
Uh,
your entire life savings can go away just because something happened to you, and it's absolutely insane.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't really know what the answer is because I don't think the answer is our free healthcare system. But like what you described too is like I don't know if that's what I want either, right? And I would like to say that like your healthcare system isn't a free healthcare or a free market healthcare system either. It's crony capitalism that's happening as well. So like yeah, I think we need to push for free markets for like corporate interests to get out of the way. I mean, big pharma is disgusting in what it does, and it's not there to help people. It's just there to keep people on medication and suck money away from people. So
Yeah, it's sick care. I mean, they literally, I mean, you don't get healthy by going to doctors. I mean, you get put on pills and then more pills and then more pills. And I think I heard a stat the other day is like the average 60-year-old in the United States is on 16 medications. The average. And so
that doesn't surprise me.
it's like, when does that start? Like, do you start taking pills when you're like 40? And then they add another pill when you're 45 and then 50. And then by the time you're 60, all of a sudden you have a handful of pills that you're taking every day. And that's to keep you healthy. That's the health guidelines for you. You know, if you're
Yeah.
not healthy, if you're not on these pills, and it's wild. And I think,
Well, like you, I'm on the carnivore diet, right?
yeah, yeah.
And I had my blood work done, and my doctor saw my cholesterol levels, and she like looked at me and she's like, "You need this medication. You are going to die." I'm like, I have never felt better in my life. I have been doing so much better with my concussion and everything that's going on in my recovery since I've started this diet. I like am starting to physically look better and healthier. And I'm 30 years old. What do you mean? Like I'm going to die today if I don't start taking this medication? And she like was literally looking at me like I was gonna die tomorrow and just wanted to give me this medication. And I'm like, not once did she ask me well, like at that point, she didn't ask me what my diet was. I then brought that up that my levels are increased because of the carnivore diet, and it kind of explained why I'm not super worried about it. And there was no question on, well, how long are you going to be on the diet? Can we slightly modify the diet? Like this and that. It was just diet's bad. Take these medications. And I'm like, I'm not taking these medications. It's not an option for me. I would rather consider lifestyle before I take anything pharmaceutical. And she was just like you are going to die. I'm like, I am going to die faster from taking the medication than I am because I have high cholesterol.
Yeah. No, I had the same thing. I don't know if you saw my post, but I was like, you know, I started the carnivore diet. I'm like 80% carnivore. I still go out to eat and eat crap every once in a while. But I'm like 80% carnivore diet. I eat steak and eggs. That's the majority of my diet. And protein,
Yep.
you know. And yeah, I had the same thing. My good cholesterol, I forget what it's called, but those levels,
You have HDL and LDL.
yeah, HDL. And those levels
Yep.
were great. He was like, "This is fantastic." Your LDL, he's like, "You're borderline. If but you know, if I see you in 6 months, like we might have to get you on medication." Same thing. And I was like, "I don't drink alcohol. I use tobacco, but that's fine." Um, I'm literally probably the healthiest I've been, maybe since college when I was like 22. And my blood pressure is like the best it's ever been in my life. I'm like, how is it my cholesterol because of my diet? Now you want to put me on pills just because of my cholesterol. And I'm like, first of all, cholesterol is good for you. You need it.
For everything.
It helps your brain function. And I'm like, it blows my mind that that's where we've come to. And I don't know where I was going with that, to be honest. But
Yeah, I think like where we've where it's going and where it is, it's just about cents and dollars. It's how can we make money, and it's not about people's health. It's all just big corporate interests trying to line their pockets. And that's unfortunately where I think the medical system is. And like it's no different in Canada than it is the United States. And it's a sad reality, but that's kind of the reality that we're living in. So I think as I've gotten into Bitcoin, like that's been something that I've thought of more is like you just don't take the mainstream idea anymore on anything. It's let me research the topic, let me think of it, and kind of have the sovereignty to choose what do I want, what do I think is best. Because every doctor right now, and it might be a little bit different in the United States, but every doctor here in Ontario, they are being fed the same information. Like there's no dissenting thoughts. There's just one track mind on everything. And to me, it's like I don't know how you have a one world mind on everything. Like there should be different voices on either end. Like we need to have left and right. You need to have someone who thinks this and someone who thinks that. Like I appreciate having conversations with people that don't think the way that I think, because that either shows me where am I wrong in my thinking, or it further cements what I have to, like what I do believe, right? But when people are just in an echo chamber, just thinking the same thing, being fed the same thing every day, they don't think of anything. So like when I question about vaccines for our kids, it's like they look at me like I'm crazy. But it's like so show me the evidence that this actually helps, or this is good, or this is bad. And they're just like, well, 2% of kids die from chickenpox a year. So you want me to give my 2-year-old here or that's at like 6 months actually. So you want me to give my 6-month-old child the chickenpox vaccine because 2% of kids die from chickenpox? Yes. Okay. Well, like how many of those kids have another comorbidity to that chickenpox? Like they're not dying from chickenpox. And like my kid isn't going to be the 2%, right? So then why am I giving my kid the chickenpox shot?
yeah.
And they have no like you just bring up other data and they just look at you like I don't know how to respond.
Well, I think the most frustrating part being in the United States is, yeah, it's nice to have, you have your right and your left viewpoints, but as soon as you follow the money, it's all going back to the same people. It's like it's so unfortunate because you vote for someone like Trump, and you're like, maybe, just maybe, drain the swamp. Like it never happens because
Yeah.
you have to get majority vote. And who's the majority vote? They all get paychecks from pharmaceutical, from big corporations. They're not going to vote to slash everything and dox their own jobs to smaller government. They're not going to vote for that. They get paid based off that. And so it's like,
Exactly.
it's so frustrating. I think that was like one of the biggest eye openers when I found out about Bitcoin. Was I never used to pay attention to that stuff. Politics was politics. It was I went to a very liberal college in Colorado, and I don't know, 99% of people there were liberal, and I was like, whatever, I'm liberal too. I didn't care. And then you start to grow up and you start to work, and then you're kind of like, well, politics matters a little bit, right? Like it affects your life. It taxes the prices of things. And then like I said, 2020 was like the big eye opener for me because I remember distinctly they sent out those checks in the United States, like $1,200 to every individual. And I think that was like the first round. They sent like 3 checks total or something. And I was like, wait, they're sending $1,200 to every person in the United States. Okay. And all my friends were like, dude, free money. And I was like, this money is not free. I was
Not
like,
free.
there's no such thing as free money. And I remember at the time, I have a group chat, and I was like, I'm putting all of this into Bitcoin. And they were joking, like, dude, yeah, just throw everything into Bitcoin, man. Like, okay, do it. I was like, I'm going to. And they all threw theirs into the stock market. They weren't as dumb as other people who went out and bought like dumb toys,
Hmm.
but they threw it into the stock market. I threw it into Bitcoin, and I was like, do you realize you're going to be paying 10x for this free money that you're getting right now? It's going to come from somewhere, and it's going to come from your paycheck, whether it's via taxes, hidden tax and inflation, or they're going to come for you for it because they need to pay off debt because they just printed 40% of the United States monetary dollar. It's like they printed
Yep.
so much money. I was like, this is not free. And they still don't understand it, which is wild to me.
I don't know. I really don't know how people don't see it now. I guess I kind of have a similar story that way too of I was introduced to Bitcoin in 2013. A friend of mine that I was working for, so like he's older than me, was buying like $50,000 worth of Bitcoin at a time. Yeah, like stupid amounts of Bitcoin. Is obviously very wealthy now and well off that way. But he pitched it to me as this inflation hedge. And like I'm 18, I have no clue what inflation is. I have probably at this point never paid taxes before in my life, at least in terms of income, because I didn't make enough to actually pay the taxes and all that. It's like inflation is something for Argentina, right?
Yeah.
Like this is silly. Like we don't have inflation in Canada or the United States or anywhere that is like a first world type thing, right? And then yeah, similar to you, is like 2020 came around, COVID hit, and it's like we had stimulus that I think it was like $700 every week went to anyone who was off. So we were getting like 15, 1400 bucks a month, everybody. And like there were people that collected that for 24 months or more.
Well, I did not know that. They were paying that much a month.
Yeah. And then they were also paying if you had like a certain threshold. So if you had a business and like your income from like say 2021 to like pre-COVID, like 2019, if your revenue was down like 50%, they would pay like 50% or more of your employees payroll. That way you weren't laying people off. So like there was even incentive for people not to do well at like with their business and stuff because they would have to end up paying more than they were making and all like yeah it was just so yeah basically I was looking at 2020. So like my real journey of Bitcoin I guess starts in 2020, like going through COVID, and then early 2021 we had our second child, and I'm looking at him going, now I got two children, and like they're gonna pay for all of this for the next like for their whole life, like 70, 80, 100 years. They're gonna be paying for what we're doing here in COVID. So I need to figure out like what is money? What is the stock market? I remembered my friend buying Bitcoin back in 2013, all that sort of stuff. And I had watched the price of Bitcoin like casually, basically from that moment on, and sort of saw where it was going and all that, right? So I said to myself that like I can't just jump in, buy stocks, buy Bitcoin because I'm just gonna sell it if like the number goes up, like I did back in 2013, right? Well, so my son was born early January. I took all basically until October to kind of like study stocks, study Bitcoin, all that sort of stuff. And then in like mid-October, I decided, all right, like I know enough. I need to like actually get in and figure it out. Like you can't like you can think of stuff theoretically, but until you kind of get your hands on something, it's not till you kind of figure it out, right? So I kind of got to that point and decided, let's buy a bunch of Bitcoin. Let's buy, some Apple, Tesla, like those types of stocks. So my buy-in was 67K
For Bitcoin.
for Bitcoin. So like literally right at the top, but not getting in because of FOMO, just like that's just the nature of when I arrived to Bitcoin type thing. And then you hit 69K and everybody's like, woo, woo, and then it's kind of free fall from there for a couple of years, right? So I haven't really experienced a bull market that way. Just continued stacking the whole way down, and our third child was born November of 2022. And at that point, I had a few $1,000s left in savings, and decided, I'll take the rest of this and put it into Bitcoin. And if the number goes down, another 50% from here, like whatever. But thankfully, that was at 17K, and we went down to 15K. So I put my last little bit of a big chunk in right at the bottom there, which was a nice timing, because I was kind of looking at my son that way, going, we actually had a whole lot of health issues with him. We were in the NICU at the time with him. And was just again seeing it like he's going to have problems maybe for his life. We might not even make it out of the hospital with him. That's kind of how dire it was. And, you know, I know that Bitcoin is something that's good here. So let's just jump right in with all we have. So
No, I found Bitcoin in like 2017 during that bull market when it went to like 20K. And sorry, my dog just knocked my charger off my phone, off my laptop.
that's all right.
But yeah, so I found it in like 2017. And I was studying stocks at the time. I mean, I had a job, but my boss was never in the office. And so I literally had free time, and I was just sitting there. Like, I had enough time to like watch Netflix during this job. It was kind of pathetic. But
Yeah.
so I started researching like stocks. How do I trade? So I like did this whole course of like, you know, stocks 101 type stuff. And then I was watching Bitcoin, and it went up to 20K. And I was like, dang, like, I don't even know what this thing is. But it came all the way down to like 13. I think I bought it. My very first buy was at like 13K. And I was in it to trade it, but that was on the way down. And so I watched it go down, and then I barely bought any for the next like 6 months. And then I bought a little more. But my conviction started really in 2020, when I remember we just got back from Italy, and we had, I think, maybe $4,000 in our bank account, maybe, and that was a lot for us. We were broke. We just spent like, I don't even remember how much money on this vacation in Italy. It was like our honeymoon do-over, because our first honeymoon I got sick the whole time. Anyway,
Oh.
so we saved up for this big Italy trip. We go there. We're stuck in Venice during 2020, like in March, beginning of
Oh.
March. And we hear about COVID, and we're like, I don't even know what this thing is. We get advised to stay in the hotel, and we're like, you know what? When's the next time we're going to be in Venice? I was like, fuck this. Let's go out. So we just went out. We had Venice to ourselves. It was empty. But
Oh.
anyway, we fly back. And so we have like no money in our bank account. And I tell my wife, I'm like watching CNBC, and I was like, if Bitcoin drops to $3,000, we're buying a full Bitcoin. And she was like, okay, like, I don't know what that is, because I didn't really talk about it. And the bottom was 3,500. So I never bought.
Oh.
So
So close.
it was so close. And so I didn't buy a full Bitcoin, obviously, that time. And so we just, ever since then, though, I started educating myself on it even more, reading the books, spending the time. And yeah, that's when dollar cost averaging just started happening for us. My wife even got on board. We started buying Bitcoin every month for ever since. And so we just, doesn't matter what the price is. If I'll be like, hey, babe, we have extra money, we're buying Bitcoin. She's like, okay. That's what we keep our savings account in now, is, we're pretty much as we can be without using leverage into Bitcoin. We just keep a very small amount in our savings account for emergencies, just in case, dog gets sick or hurt, or something stupid happens. We have money for it, and we have credit cards. But everything else, we just keep in Bitcoin, because there's no point. Even if you're keeping your money in a high yield savings, you're making 5% if you're lucky. And that can be locked up even for, 24, 36 months. and you're beating inflation according to CPI, and that's about it. But if you follow CPI, which we all know that's complete crap, um,
Hmm.
you're still losing your money. And it's awesome that my wife understands that now too. And so yeah, I mean, we live as close as we can to a Bitcoin standard these days because there's no point in holding anything else unless you want to hold stocks in your 401k, if you have no access to Bitcoin. I just don't see the point in holding other things. And I don't see the point in selling unless you want to or need to. Um, to better your life, or if we wanted to sell, if we needed to sell for something major, sure. But I just don't see the point in keeping money in cash anymore because I mean, they're focusing right now on trying to lower inflation, and the inflation numbers are so skewed when I'm sitting there watching my grocery bill go up 40-50%, and then they tell me we're only at 7% inflation, and then my electricity bill has doubled, and everything else I purchase has gone up at like bare minimum 10%. I mean, even your Netflix account has gone up probably
Yep.
40% since 2020. And I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, you can't you can't beat inflation by holding any sort of cash. And so there's no
No.
point. And I think that's like, I wish that's what I could like shake people's head and be like, what are you doing? But
But it's the known thing. I think that's the issue is that like stocks and equities are what's known and preached on how to generate wealth, and real estate is a way that you do that as well, right? And Bitcoin is this scary thing for people because it's not a known idea or concept. And then you get other things like FTX and Luna and like all these other things that they've kind of heard about, and they get scared off by Bitcoin. So this weekend in DC, I actually met Rob Satz. It's kind of like his Twitter handle there.
yeah, I was going to ask you
And
that.
the I guess the Washington Nationals made a deal with Terra to
Terra Luna.
like Terra Luna, yeah,
Yeah.
to be like a like to have advertisement or whatever. So they have this Terra Club, which is like the highest, most expensive seats is the Terra Club. And the Nationals were like skeptical like at the beginning, so they basically asked for all the money up front and got the like they got paid up front, and the most expensive seats are still called the Terra Club because they paid up front in like 2020 or whatever. So he took me to like the outside of the club, and we took a photo in front of it and laughed. But there was like a security guy that was at the front, and Rob said to him, he's like, "Do you know what Terra is?" And he goes, "What?" He's like, "Do you know what Terra, like what the name is up there?" And he kind of like looks back and he goes, "Yeah, it's some kind of Bitcoin thing." And I just like I'm like, "Yeah, but no, like it's not like Bitcoin's its own thing. That's like crypto. Like if you want to generalize something there, that's crypto, but like that's an example of how people associate like I would say like the bad actors in the space, right? Of people don't want to get burned by that. So they see that people have made wealth before in stocks, whether that's, Microsoft or Apple or Tesla, index funds like the S&P 500, right? Like those are just easy things to do, right? So that's what unfortunately a lot of people are going to continue to do. And I think as we, kind of have the options to add Bitcoin like ETFs into portfolios that way, whether that's your 401k or like up here, like we have our RSP and TFSAs and that sort of stuff. It's going to be easier for people to do because it's right there in their account. It's easy for them to see, and it's kind of like a known thing, even though it's Bitcoin. And then, like, I think you're going to have a lot of treasury companies and just like companies too that like I think eventually Apple and stacking Bitcoin, like to me, I think it's inevitable. Especially if the United States creates a strategic Bitcoin reserve, like I think that'll kind of be the thing that pushes other companies to stack Bitcoin. Like I don't think they're necessarily going to go as hard as Sailor or whoever else is doing it now. But yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be something that integrates into TradFi before we like exit TradFi.
Well, and I think people are going to own Bitcoin in one way or another, whether they know it or not. Even in the small hopes that strategy gets into the S&P 500, everyone that owns, your VU or SPY in the stock market, you'll be affected by Bitcoin in one way or another.
Yeah, you're going to get the benefit of the price go up. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they're not going to be educated on it, but they'll be involved in some way. And I think that's inevitable too. And I think more and more companies, like you said, Apple, um, they'll end up buying. I mean, the SBR is kind of interesting because I'm so torn on it. I'm like, do we want the United States government to own 1 million Bitcoin? And on one hand, I'm like, that's gonna pump some bags. That's gonna make number go up, and that's always cool. And other nation states will fall in line, and
Mhm.
they will buy it as well. I think my biggest fear is if they create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, whoever's in charge in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, unless they do it with intelligence and somehow lock it up or make it so it can't be taken out, sold. I don't know how they could do this. I do worry that that could be used as a weapon, as a in a negative way, and we have enough negativity around Bitcoin as it is. Because every time you turn on the news, every bull cycle, its number go up, and then there's a huge scam, and all of
Mhm.
these people lose millions of dollars and or billions, and then that's on the news for the next 2 years about Bitcoin, and that's all they hear.
Right, and they tie it to the negative garbage of whatever that was.
Yeah, and so that like the SBR kind of worries me that I don't want Bitcoin to become another political narrative that okay, if a Republican president is like, let's get a Bitcoin reserve, and then the Democrats come in and then they're like, we need to sell it all because this is for money laundering. Look at how much harm this is doing to the public. If we sell it and give it to immigrants, look what we can do, some social justice reason. And I mean, that's coming from the right versus the left, but it could happen both ways. I mean, you could get, a very authoritarian government in there, and I don't know how they could weaponize it, but I mean, they do a pretty good job of weaponizing pretty much everything else. And so I'm sure they could. And I just don't want it to become such a negative thing. And I think that's the importance of what we're doing and what Bitcoin means is the sovereignty of that they can't take it from you as long as you own it. And so that's one of my biggest things with the SBR. I don't what do you think about it?
Yeah, with the SBR, I think the longer that we go from the initial accumulation, right? So if you're like, I don't think the fear of it being weaponized happens in 10 years. I think the fear of it being weaponized happens in the next like 3 years with the next administration. If Trump were to create an SBR today and would accumulate something for 3 years, and then the Democrats get in 2028, right? That's when I could see them do something with it because it hasn't matured enough for it to hurt them in any way,
That's a good
right?
point.
But if you're getting 10 years out from now and the price of a Bitcoin is $1 million, like where is the incentive for the US government then to sell that off? The To me, the incentive for them would be to like, if anything, would be to loan against it. And that's the same thing for like Sailor to any company that is hodling Bitcoin on their balance sheet is once the price gets to a certain price and they are so much like their cost basis is so low compared to what the actual price of the coin is, that why would they ever sell? So I think the farther we get out in this and having these reserves, I think that your fear becomes less. even though the price goes up. Because, you know, in 10 years from now, how does somebody move 1 million coins? And why would they want to move 1 million coins? Because they move 1 million coins, the price is going to go down, right? Even by the time they sell it all, it's going to go down before they liquidate it all. I don't know
You're putting a lot of
why they would do that.
you're putting a lot of faith in the intelligence of our governments.
That's true. And I mean, maybe it's not fair for me to do that, but at the same time, it's like they also have to get reelected too, right? So 10 years from now, when the price is $1 million and then they lose tons of money on their Bitcoin selling because they decided to sell based on what it was worth, when there are other options to loan against it or do something with it that way, I don't think that they necessarily get reelected that way either. So I think the longer that we're in it is the better. And I mean, and that's the same for people. Like at an individual level, the longer you're in Bitcoin, the less scared that you are of the asset because your cost basis is so much lower than what the actual price of what you have is, right? So I don't care at this point if like I needed to sell or if the price went down by 50% because I'm way up in terms of fiat percentage gain, right? So like what do I have to fear? So I don't care about trying to sell the top and trade and make and all that sort of stuff. I'm happy to see the price go down by 50% because that means that like I'm buying anyways. It just means it's cheaper for me to buy it, right? I get double of what I wanted or a quarter, 75% of what I wanted or whatever. But like, I don't know what the incentive is for a government to completely at least sell their whole bag, in 10 years from now, and the price of a Bitcoin is $1 million.
I agree because you did bring up, yeah, if if a new government, Democrats or something, get elected in 2028 and we're in a bear market, let's say, I guess following the Bitcoin cycle, we shouldn't be because the halving will happen in 2026 or 2027.
I think so.
Yeah, so then we would technically be in a bull market at that point, but they could still sell because it's gone down. Like, say we have a big bear market and then someone else comes in, they could say, look how much money the Republicans lost us because they put your hard earned tax dollars into Bitcoin, even though it probably won't be our tax dollars. They'll probably just print money to do it. But they could, everything gets politicized these days. It's, them versus us, left versus right. So if the left gets in, they could easily say, look at what they did with your money. It's gone and we're gonna
Well, isn't there
sell it.
there's incentive for the other side to maybe try and drive the price of Bitcoin down if there was to be a strategic Bitcoin reserve created because you want to see that number go down. So I would say that if a strategic Bitcoin reserve were to be created today, it survives. If it survives 4 years from now, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, you already see it. You see. I hate to keep saying the right versus the left, saying that the left is so bad because I used to be a Democrat, but that's just where we're at right now. So whatever.
Right.
People will probably bash me for it somehow, but you already see the vilification from the left about environmental factors. And even though that's been squashed, I don't know how many times, like electricity, look how much it uses, more than nation states. It's terrible. Mining Bitcoin's gonna, boil the oceans. And you're like, that's already been proven wrong. But yeah, it's still a statement that gets printed all the time
Yeah.
and it still comes up. And it's so they'll use it, they'll do that kind of stuff with it. Um,
But I
it's
think that's where like people like you and I come in, and like I think it's easy to believe that narrative when you're hearing that from like MSNBC or Fox or CNN, like whatever news network that you hear that from, because you don't know anybody who's a Bitcoiner. But the more that like Bitcoiners there are, the more that the normie's going to have a friend who's in Bitcoin, right? So they hear this thing, but then when they talk to their Bitcoin friend, it's like the Bitcoin friend debunks what's being said, right? So I think as we have adoption, the more we move forward and not have those narratives being the driving narratives, because there's going to be people like you and I that are cutting through that, where like right now, I think the last report that I saw in Canada is like 5% of people in Canada hold Bitcoin,
Really?
right? Like how is, yeah, so like how is 5% of Canadians, making a difference that way? Now, I think that stat that I saw was back in 2023 and was done by the Bank of Canada, like a Bank of Canada survey. But let's say that that's crept up to even 10%, right? Like that's 1 in 10 people then actually hold Bitcoin. I doubt that it's 10%. So let's say it is actually closer to 5%. But the more that that number of adoption of Canadians and Americans holding Bitcoin, the more the normie is going to hear about Bitcoin from like our perspective, right? So we need to be active and we need to be vocal in what Bitcoin is, how it is good, and all that sort of stuff, and cut through the mainstream BS of that it's somehow bad.
No, I agree. I mean, that's why I think it's great that Bitcoin podcasts are popping up all over again, because there I feel like there used to only be a couple, and then they kind of boomed for a while, and then it kind of went down again. I mean, that's why I felt like I should start this one, is any type of education for people, any type of information that they can get, something to send to someone, be like, just take this point of view. Maybe they'll, you know, it'll change their mind, whether it's changing their mind 5%, 10%, or maybe they'll stop vilifying it or thinking of it as in a bad way.
Yeah, I think what I like about podcasts and how lately it's been like more people like you starting podcasts. It's not like these big name, big money behind it. Like it's just people like you and I talking. And I think that there's power in testimony. And just because like I don't have some grand wild testimony of like I was living in Argentina, the dollar went to zero and I got into Bitcoin and I saved my family, and we're now living the American dream in America and I'm like a billionaire or something like that, right? Like, how does Bitcoin affect like just the everyday working man? And I think the more that we hear these stories of just, regular people, um, like there's value and there's power in that. And I appreciate you starting a podcast, and some of the other people that I've seen lately of starting podcasts. It's like we're having more people now talk about it in the space and share essentially their testimony of what Bitcoin is, and how it's affected them in their life, where they see it going, and all that sort of stuff. And like I think of so I'm a Christian, right? And
Same.
yeah, when you share the gospel, or like when I think about, like I grew up in the church. I went to a Christian school as a kid, so like every Sunday I was at church. Monday through Friday I'm exposed to biblical teaching. Tuesday nights or whatever, Wednesday nights I'm going to like kids group and stuff at church. So it's like it's just church, 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 Christian, Christian, Christian stuff being thrown in my face, right? Like I heard the gospel a million times before I accepted it, right? And I think it's going to be the same thing for a lot of people in Bitcoin, is that they're going to hear about Bitcoin a million times before they get on board and understand what Bitcoin is. And the more that we are being willing and open to talk about what Bitcoin is, the more that people are gonna hear about it, right? Like seeds fall in hard soil, they're not gonna grow. But if you can till that soil a bit, or keep throwing seeds down, at least one seed's gonna plant itself and grow some roots, and then that's gonna provide shade and protection for other seeds to grow. And you know after a while you actually have some grass.
I
So
agree. No, I agree completely. But hey, I wanted to ask you, because of Sailor's tweet the other day or post about the Bitcoin winter being over, and I was like, we got to
mm,
talk about this because I go back and forth on this one. We've all heard that super cycle that was thrown around the last cycle in 2021. I forget who coined that phrase. Was it American Hodl or something? Someone phrased super cycle, and they were like, we're not going to have bear markets anymore. And of course we did. And now we
Hmm.
have someone like Michael Saylor saying winter is over. And I'm like, or what did he say? Winter's not coming back, or
I think he said winter's not coming back, or essentially that yeah, it's over.
yeah. And I was like, I mean, he owns, not him, but Strategy owns over 600,000 Bitcoin. And I'm like, man, what would that look like if we finally didn't have, a 2 year bear market of Bitcoin just falling? Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think we're still going to get this potential bull run into 2026 where we get a blow off top? Even though in 2021, I don't think we really had a blow off top. I mean, we went to 69, but it didn't feel like a blow off top to me because I think everyone was so excited for 100K that cycle
Yeah.
that it was like, man, we didn't hit 100K. It kind of felt like we got cut short because China banned it, then FTX fell apart. It almost felt like the bull run got cut, right when it was getting going. So it didn't feel like, that euphoria stage for me at least. Do you think that's over, or do you think we're going gonna just, I don't know, trickle up, level off for a while, maybe dip 10%, then go back up? I mean, what's your take?
I think the days of seeing an 80% correction are done. And I say that, and I'll listen to this in like 2 years from now, and I'll be completely wrong on that.
We'll follow
Um,
up in like 6 months.
right. Um, no, when you have Sailor who's buying, like Sailor is basically going to be the buyer of last resort at this point, right? So with literally just Sailor buying, I don't know how we see a like the traditional bear market. Like, yes, do we see, maybe 10-20% corrections? That's sort of what, I'm projecting. I can be completely wrong, and maybe we do see something like a 50% or a 60% or something like that. But like, I really don't think you're going to see 70, 80, 90% correction on Bitcoin. There's just too many out there that are buying that aren't going to sell, that don't have, um, like all the sovereign wealth funds that are out there buying, like they're not buying Bitcoin to sell in 6 months or 2 years. Like they're holding that for 10, 20, 50 years, right? Like, so with that, I don't think that we see this big bear market. So I would agree with Sailor that, winter is over. Um, but does that mean that we don't get some nasty weather along the way? Yeah, I think that that can happen. I think you might see, some nasty weather come in for a month or two. But then, there are sunnier, warmer days coming right around the corner. So that's more or less how I see it. I kind of think that, we're just gonna kind of trickle up and kind of do like sideways and then, a sharper upswing and then come down a little bit and then go sideways, right? Like I don't think it'll be like this gradual kind of move up. I think we'll have some parabolic runs in there, but I think for like the foreseeable future is kind of my guess that we're going to have, upward movement if we're looking at it over, the course of the next 2 years. But Bitcoin seems to move at the beat of its own drum, and I can be completely wrong in saying all that, but I just look at it from like a sentiment standpoint of you got all these companies buying Bitcoin. I'm buying Bitcoin. You're buying Bitcoin. Like I don't see how the number goes down because you and I aren't selling. Sailor's not selling. Metaplanet's not selling. No one's selling,
Well, we
right?
did.
When
Well,
when 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 the price hits like 150 or 200 or 220 or 400 or whatever that is.
we had that guy sell 80,000 coins, and the price only went down, 5% or whatever. He sold 80,000 coins, and I don't know how he held on since like 2013 with that many coins, but it was pretty phenomenal that didn't really impact the market the way I thought it would.
I was just trying to look here. I got a notification on my phone earlier this afternoon that said that BlackRock had sold a bunch of Bitcoin as well. And the price today is like 113, 114, whatever that is currently, right? Yeah, I mean, there are people that are selling, but it's being absorbed just as quickly because there are people out there that are buying.
No, I tend to
Again, I'll look back on this in 2 years and laugh and say I'm an idiot for saying it, but I've been on the fence like 50-50 that we're going to see a winter. I think today, like you're asking me, I'm going to say it's like, 75% chance that we don't see a winter at this point.
I like it. No, I mean that's honestly where I'm kind of at too. And I was even like, you know what? I think we're gonna kind of average up slowly for some reason this there's no scientific reasoning, no technical analysis behind this. This was all because I was like, I think we're gonna creep up about 10-ish% a month. And I don't know why. I was like, I think we do have some big sellers, but it's getting absorbed quick. But I think we have more people, even though technically, retail hasn't come according to, the statistics, that we don't have this hype because people aren't using massive leverage. We haven't reached that stage. And I think my prediction is, 10% a month about, and that would put us right around 190K in December, if I'm correct. And I was
Okay.
like, I could get behind that. That's not too euphoric. That's not unrealistic at all. It's actually kind of bearish. Um, and I would love to see this Bitcoin cycle not do a massive parabolic run to 250, 300K or something crazy, because that will cause a collapse of your 70, 80%, I think. If we do have a big run up like that, um, people will sell, even the ETFs. I think Wall Street will sell because they have to, balance their books. They need,
Mhm.
if they have something outperforming, they tend to sell their outperformer to level off, because they're holding too much of a percentage. They have rules. They can't hold 20% of a certain thing. So if that,
And that's huge for the ETFs when they're not, say, strictly like 100% Bitcoin is like if it is, 5% allocation, well, that 5% quickly became 20, 25, 50%.
exactly.
So they're going to have to, by their mandate of what the ETF is to sell, which yes, I do agree with you. If we were to end up doing like big parabolic runs, getting up to like 300, 400, 500, like in the next, let's say even 12 months, there's going to be a lot of selling, but I still don't think you see a correction down below like 100K or see something of like a 70% correction. I think you'll see, the BlackRocks and those, money managers sell to balance their books and balance their, regulations and, you know, help people with like their earnings and all that sort of stuff because they need to show profitability in everything that they're doing. I just think that it's going to end up being absorbed, a lot faster than it allows to go down, 70% because those money managers are just going to buy in when it goes down by 20% and do this rinse, wash, and repeat that way, right? So, um, again, I kind of think the days of, the big corrections are gone and long cold winters. To me, it'll be, you get a month here, a month there of colder weather, and then, things are good. So,
Hope you're right. I think that would be pretty cool for adoption as well. You posted that you were at Shake Shack the other day, and I was like, that's pretty dang cool that we have, a fast food restaurant
but
basically.
it's not Shake Shack. It's Steak and Shake
Oh, steak
that
and
has the lightning bacon. No, 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 no. So I made the mistake. I was like, I went in because I'm a Canadian. I don't know my things exactly, and I went into Shake Shack thinking I could use Bitcoin Lightning payment, and I'm like, where's the Lightning payment? And then I get home and I look at it, and I'm like, oh, it's Steak and Shake. It's not Shake. It's
Shake Shack.
yeah, Steak. Yeah, Steak Shack. Or
Steak
yeah,
and
whatever.
Shake, and then Shake Shack.
Yeah, it's I had the wrong company, so I'm the one that made a mess up on that. But again, it's inevitable that Shake what where did I go?
You went to Shake Shack.
Shake Shack. Shake Shack will eventually take Lightning Bitcoin payments at some point. You can mark that down.
Yeah, yeah, there we go. Eventually, even though I hate McDonald's, I was like, eventually McDonald's will do it too. I'll just be able to tap my Bitcoin wallet. But
So we have a company here in Canada and here in Ontario and in Southern Ontario called Tahini's. And I guess so. Do you know Pierre Polyev? He was the conservative
yeah,
leader. He's famous like for creating a stunt of buying shawarma from Tahini's with Bitcoin. We have a Tahini's is a company here in Canada that not all like I think because they're all franchised and like individually owned.
yeah,
But Ali, who's the one who is like the founder of Tahini's, part of like being a franchisee is like you go through like Bitcoin training, understanding what Bitcoin is and all that sort of stuff. But it's up to the franchise to accept whether or not they accept Bitcoin and that sort of stuff. So you might go from like a Tahini's in like I know there's one in Hamilton, there's one in like Pickering or Ajax or something. Um, like one might accept Bitcoin, one might not, that type of thing. So it's all up to the individual location to do what they want to do with it. And then it's up to the individual location of, yes, they might accept it, but do they hold it? Do they just convert it back into fiat, all that sort of stuff? But yeah, that is a company here in Ontario that's doing it that way. And Ali has actually converted like his cash all to Bitcoin, and I think he started that in 2020. So
it's pretty cool. And I think if our prediction's correct that we don't have like a 80% drawdown, I think that will drive more adoption. I think people will be like, I want in on this because even if it's 5% or less of their purchases, like Steak and Shake, I don't know how many times I saw people post that they went and bought a
yeah,
burger and they drove hours just to do it and help them and promote it. And I was like, what a genius. Like, I mean, that was like free
marketing
promotion.
ploy.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was great. And I'm like, eventually there's gonna be more companies that do that. They're gonna promote it. And you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go spend my Bitcoin. I'm gonna buy my Bitcoin back, but I'm gonna go spend
right.
it. If I want to go drop $20 or 20,000 sats or whatever that is on a burger or whatever the next chain is, I'm going to do it. And I hope they don't sell my Bitcoin for cash. I hope they hold it for a long time because then their earnings reports are going to be just like MSTR. You know, they're going to be like,
Right.
hey, look, we used to make 5% a year. And then all of a sudden they're going to be like, yeah, we made 3,000% this year.
And what do you then think all the employees are going to do too?
Yeah,
Right. So like all the CEOs and like all the people at the top are going to start buying Bitcoin because they see how it's worked out for the company, which like that information is going to get passed on to like the next rung of people, and that's going to trickle all its way down to the lowest person in the company. And that's how Bitcoin adoption is gonna start. So yeah, I'm all for spending my Bitcoin and supporting, companies that are living the Bitcoin standard, like to at least some degree, like
steak and shake.
steak and shake. I'm gonna get well, just you know what I'm talking about is like it's up to them whether they want to keep it or not. Um, but like I'm gonna support them because they're doing something right that way, and they're not then taking all their cash and putting that into Bitcoin. So like they might only have like 5% of their earnings or savings or whatever in Bitcoin, but that's better than zero. So I'm gonna go support them because McDonald's is at zero, right? And McDonald's is worse for you. So
Exactly. And, we're changing things. The beef tallow and
yeah,
the health that comes behind learning about Bitcoin, it's like low time preference. You're like, holy crap, I kind of want to live a little longer and I should probably take care of myself. And then all of a sudden, the Bitcoin ethos, I mean, we've memed our way into this existence of beef tallow now is a big thing. And it's like, holy crap, that could, I mean, fast food could change. I mean, that's the Bitcoin fixes this meme.
Hmm.
It just keeps going and keeps going. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I was disappointed that I didn't get my beef tallow fries. Yeah, when I found that out afterwards, I mean, I didn't have many because I was just eating the burger, and my wife had the fries. But I was like, oh, give me some of those beef tallow fries, and I had like two or three of them, and then I found out that I was eating seed oils, and I was not doing what I thought I was doing. So, but that's on me for not verifying, just trusting that I was in the right spot.
I thought you were too, because I didn't even verify,
But I wasn't.
but you
Yeah,
weren't.
no.
Right on, man. But I appreciate you doing this, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate you. I appreciate like your friendship. Like I know you're in Florida, I'm in Ontario. We may never see each other and whatnot, but
no, we'll meet up.
um,
We'll meet up.
yeah, no, you're probably right when you say that. But no, I do appreciate your friendship, and like we've had some DMs go back and forth and all that sort of stuff. So I do appreciate knowing you and all that. And it's been fun to do this and kind of put a face to the handle
Yeah,
and see some emotion and all that with you. So
yeah,
thanks for having me on and thinking of me and having me do this. So
yeah. Well, let's do it again in like 6 months or a year, and let's see where the price is at and see if our prediction's correct.
my prediction on price,
Throw a
I'd
number
be
out
horror.
there for December.
For December, I mean, I think we have to be. I mean, I say have to be. It's like, why do we have to be? But like, I don't know. I'd be happy with something between 180 and 200.
Okay.
Like that to me feels like it still feels like a lot to move that way, but at the same time doesn't feel like a lot. So I feel like that's kind of like a happy medium, being conservative on my price prediction. Like, I mean, I think that it should be worth $1 million or more because I would
I agree.
pay that myself. The market doesn't necessarily express my sentiment on that, but um, yeah, I would think somewhere between a 180 and a 200. I would sort of think. Um, I would definitely say above 150, but who knows? Who knows, man?
Sweet.